Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Hello and welcome back to yet another Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I am your host, Adam Cousins, and this, for me, is a special podcast because the boys have booked this for my birthday, which is tomorrow, June 20th. But on the podcast today, we have someone who has been in the WWE in two major groups. One of them was Sanity and the other one was Imperium. He's now back in his native home in Germany where he's doing all stuff, wrestling. Good. Is it a good evening now, Axel? About an hour. I'm about an hour behind you, I believe. So you're about early evening your time now.
Yeah, 5:30 right now for me.
Yeah, so pretty much. Yeah, I'm about 4:30 my time. So thank you very much for joining on this one, Axel. I appreciate your time. Let's just start with independence in Germany right now. In the UK, it is blowing up. We're actually putting on our own show in the UK. So the Hitting the Turnbuckle are partnering with a company called Ignite Wrestling Pro. In about 4 weeks' time, we've got our own show called Buckle Up. It's coming close to breaking an attendance record, which is amazing for us. What is it like over there in Germany in the independent scene?
So far so good. So after pandemic, slowly, but yeah, I mean slowly because like you had like regulations, but like we had the non crowd shows, like the ghost shows, however you call it, and then they brought people back in with regulations. You had to show proof of whatever,
Yeah.
and then the mask and whatever. So now after pandemic, and thankfully that BS is over. So now people are coming in, like in general, like events in Germany are filled up with people. People want to be out, just open airs, whatever, concerts, especially for wrestling shows. The market is growing again, and it goes back to its old good. I remember the last show before the pandemic hit. I was attending was 16 Carat, day three in 2020, and I remember all 3 days they had over like 1,000 people in the arena. It was beautiful. And then the pandemic hit, and then they had to kind of like pick up the steam what they had in 2020, picked it up in 2021. I remember when I came back from America, my first show was beginning of August, and there was this one show in one of the event centers in Oberhausen, and they could fit a capacity of 800 people. So that was the first big show again in Germany after pandemic. But then there came another lockdown, whatever. So now after this is done, people are coming in. So the good standard in independent wrestling in Germany, I would say, is around 300 people.
Yeah.
So sometimes a little bit less, but a lot of times, a lot of more people come to wrestling shows. And, you know, sometimes even the pandemic was not a nice thing, but you could see like all like the promotions were still there and still promoting. Even the promotions after the pandemic who do their first shows and grow bigger right now, it's more quality right now than quantity. And I believe even if it sucks for somebody who had to close their doors for promotion, but you can tell uh, promotions like WXW or GWF, for example, which are in my opinion the biggest two promotions in Germany, they're doing very very good, and they are very very well with like doing more shows. So GWF and WXW are like the two promotions. They do at least one show a month, and people coming in there. And sometimes you have like summer holidays where um like the attendance is a little bit lower than expected, but then wintertime, for example, they go nuts. So it's good business right now.
Yeah, excellent. What I've seen over here in the UK is also an abundance of talent. So I went and saw Ignite, as I say, we're working with Ignite in July. I went and saw their show in April. And look, I'm not a wrestling scout. I wouldn't proclaim to know anything about what a company would look for in terms of a wrestler or what the characteristics are. But I'm one of these guys that are like, when they come out, I want to be sort of, I don't cheer, I don't boo. I just literally watch and learn and see what they're doing.
Observe.
Yeah, observe the wrestling, and I like doing that. But there were guys there, even on like matches 1 and 2 of 6, that like you could visualize potentially if they were say called up to any kind of developmental anywhere, the next day,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me because of the quality there was so good. Is that still the same in Germany? Are you getting that even the lower cards you'll see in this amounts of quality of talent?
Mm, I definitely get what you mean with that, but
Mm.
I kind of have to disagree
Okay.
because it's like a development part is you could sign anybody.
Yeah.
And let me use, for example, Randy Orton. He got signed because he had like an athletic background,
Mhm.
and when he was in the ring, and somebody spotted that he was able just to run the ropes in a proper way, maybe because his dad was a wrestler as well. So, but like that was the reason why he got signed development. So it could go in two ways. Like especially independent talents, they get signed right away, and they kind of like skip a little bit that development deal.
Mm.
For example, if you had like a guy like Johnny Gargano, he did not went into NXT and did kind of like the same way I did because he already was a made name. I was so I went in and had to do the training sessions, and even I skipped beginners class because before I signed with WWE, I had years of experience in wrestling in Europe. So, but I kind of started from scratch. And a guy like Johnny Gargano, he was well established in the American and world independent scene. He kind of like came in with the Cruiserweight Classics, and then automatically was put into a higher place because he was already more a better investment for the market and for television because he was more known than me, for example. In England, sometimes you would see people would do crazy good matches, but nobody would sign them for developmental deal because at the moment they are not looking for the exact person or for that kind of like product, and they would not do the investment. Which means that it's probably possible a year later or a few months later because they are looking for that specific guy. But I agree with that when you see guys like and killing it like they do in Europe in general, in the indie scene, and they knock it out of the park with that match that you can see like, oh, they would have potential just to be on a bigger stage, be on with the company long term, or like I don't know, a great deal where they could perform and evolve as a kind of like bigger talent or as a TV wrestling talent. So, and in Germany, you have a lot of guys who would have the potential, but also you have a lot of guys who, quite frankly, are not there yet.
Yeah.
But I believe so. For example, NXT Europe is right now kind of on the map.
Yeah.
You don't hear anything now, but you hear they want to open it up. So,
Yeah.
and I see a lot of people would have the potential of just getting kind of signed, get into the developmental, and also get to the brand and just be already a vital asset just to kind of like get the brand out there, just presented it. So it's all over the place, and a lot of times I do seminars in different countries because, for example, I get booked in Italy and they ask me if I would love to do a seminar as well. And then you see a lot of talents from other countries, from other like parts of the continent, and you see a lot of young, passionate, hungry people, and they're not perfect yet. Nobody is, but they would not be ready yet. But you see, like they saw Randy Orton, look how he runs the ropes. You
Yeah.
see kind of a hidden talent. It's kind of like, like a diamond you want to kind of polish, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't know the exact term because
Rough
my English
around
is
the
not that good.
edges. I think it's rough around the
Yeah,
edges. Yeah. That's,
yeah. So you see, you could be that one talent if you would get, for example, the coaching staff, for example, like WWE has,
yeah. Oh yeah, Devin. I mean, they had some. They got some great coaches. I mean, Shawn Michaels running it at the minute down in
No.
NXT. I mean, who wouldn't want to learn from Shawn? You
Yeah,
mentioned
even like guys like Fit Finlay, like if you speak
yeah,
like Europe and you have William Regal, Fit Finlay,
yes,
um, the masters of European wrestling, like even like the good old British catch wrestling style where everything has meaning and everything has kind of like a telling and is legit. So that's perfect.
yeah, exactly. You mentioned an interesting point because you were talking about maybe they're not ready and such that. But do you think now that there's more promotions out there? So obviously you've got the WWE, which is a lot of people's end goal. That's where they want to get to.
Yeah.
But you've now got the likes of AEW doing big things. Impact Wrestling is really on that upward curve from coming down. NWA is another one that we cover quite strongly on this show. And there's more flavors that could suit the individual tanks. You might say, well, this company isn't looking for someone like that right now, but you would actually be a great fit over here. So it gives them that more options to be able to get to where they want to get to if they want to go to America, for argument's sake.
Yeah, like you mentioned, there's a lot of opportunities out there, which is great. I think as soon as AEW hit, we all realized it backstage WWE that there's different opportunity, or there's different club you can play for. So it's good it's like you mentioned all those great promotions, and they all great promotions have their own talents, and they have their own kind of development part, and they have their own whatever under main event cards. And afterwards, in my opinion, let's use Impact. Right, you have a guy like Steve Macklin, which I know, he's a good friend of mine. I know him from NXT, and we both had a lot of fun in the ring together. And I saw him just being he was trained in the Monster Factory on the East Coast, and he was a former Marine guy, great guy. He loves wrestling, right? So then you see his kind of like way in NXT, how he kind of progressed, how he tried to get on TV. A lot of times it was not the right time, yada yada yada. And then eventually you find something together with Wesley Blake, who is now coach in the Performance Center. Also awesome guy. So they two together, and they did the Forgotten Sons, but it didn't work out that way. Whatever happened there, right? But then he went to Impact, which is smaller than WWE or smaller than NXT, for example. But then he found his stick. He found himself, so he could be himself. So now he's the main eventer, former Impact champion. Super happy for him, and I texted him lately. So when I see his character, I get like Stone Cold Steve Austin chills when he was the 96, 97 kind of like heel, but still goes to babyface because he's a badass for real, and he portrayed it in a way where I kind of like had a flashback when I was young and a huge Steve Austin fan. So it's amazing to see that, and it's sad that it didn't work out in WWE, but it's even better that it worked out in a different place, because a lot of time it's the environment. I'm not saying the environment is bad or good. It's like sometimes, and I can tell that story for myself. If you work for, let's use the movie example. If you move for movie production A, you will not be the superhero, maybe not the supervillain. You be kind of like the henchman guy. But then you work for movie production B or C, then you would be the bit protagonist or antagonist. So the talent is still the same, and the actor is also still the same. Of course, you always evolve over the time, and you learn more stuff, and nobody stops learning, especially not in wrestling. But then you find your place where you can be that guy, be that character you are, and that in the best way, in an organic way, so that it works out for you. And let's say a couple years more, he goes back to WWE. He's a better version of himself. He's more wiser. He's more skilled, and he knows how to work a TV production in a better way than he was working it when he was with SmackDown or NXT. And that's a great success story, in my opinion. So, and especially like for talents in general, it doesn't matter where you go, you make the best out of it. And speaking for myself, when I got released with WWE, of course I was bummed out, and it sucks, and you lose your job and blah blah blah. But then I find my happiness back when I went to the Indies, and I'm sure, and that's the major goal for everybody, when you get maybe again a contract with one of the major companies where you have like fixed income, where you are on a weekly television show, or you have the chance to be there. Every missed success is kind of like a learning curve for you, just to be more successful in what you do next. And with all like the opportunities you can do, I mean, if you're really looking out for something, if you really are interested to be back there, and you're fully prepared, you're working hard for that, and of course you have the necessary vitamin C for connection. So that's what's all about in professional wrestling business and business in general. You have to network, you have to know people, and then maybe you get your chance for your next shot. And if you're an opportunist, you knock it out of the park, and then you use that opportunity just to fulfill, let's say your destiny in your career, what you haven't done before, because now you know better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. And you touched on nice. We're gonna move into NXT now briefly. Sanity was an unbelievable brand. I love that. I thought the presentation, even from the presentation of the entrance to when you got into the ring and you done your. How did that come about when you was in NXT? You started there, and the next thing you know, you're a part of this group. And Eric Young's got one of the best minds that I think in the business.
Oh yeah,
for wrestling. So, was you sort of bouncing ideas off of him? Was he sort of coming to you with ideas? Was it like a group effort and that?
Yeah, that's quite a long story, but an amazing story. And forgive me just to use a little bit a lot of time for that, because I love to speak in details, just that everybody who listens or watches us can build up the picture of that.
Please.
So Triple H is the mastermind behind Sanity. Period. He's a guy. He watched the movies called Smoking Aces, and Smoking Aces is about like assassins who wants to kill one guy because something. If you don't know the movie, I can recommend it. It's an awesome movie with Ben Affleck and or like Chris Pine. So, and Chris Pine was an actor who was a part of the group Three Psychos, being kind of like punk-ish with like the Iron Cross on it, and just being like kind of redneck scum. And they kind of like be assassins. And if you hire those guys, they will not kill the person with a sniper rifle, I don't know, 100 yards away on the roof, or I don't know. They go in, shotguns, grenades, guns blazing, and knives swinging, whatever. Like, they're psychopaths. They don't care if they kill the entire restaurant because that one guy is in there. They don't care if they get shot or stabbed. They leave in the entire chaos. So they're chaotic. They even fight each other like brothers do. So that's what's the idea. I want to have a group like that. So first, it was three different guys. Actually, two different guys and one of the original guys. Sammy Callahan, Marcus Louis, that was one of the guys who got shaved bald and lost his mind and whatever. And then the third guy was Sawyer Fulton. So Sammy Callahan, that time, he quit NXT because he was not happy enough, so fair play, that he pulled the trigger on that. So he went back to the Indies and, is successful again. And Marcus Louis, I guess he got released because he was a little bit sour about certain things in the wrestling business, which you cannot control. And sometimes you are not the favorite guy, but you still have to do your job. But, he was full of it, but he got released, sadly. Because I think character-wise, he was a nice guy, but you could tell he was a little bit bitter and frizzled. So, yeah, but cannot blame him. I can understand. And Sawyer Fulton was the last guy. So then they put me and Sawyer together, random at a Florida house show. And because I was experienced in tag team wrestling, I kind of could guide him a little bit because I had more experience than him. Because he was maybe 2 years in NXT and had some TV experience, but he was not really experienced in working a wrestling match and working like local crowds, yada yada yada. So I kind of like clicked with him good together. They saw that and they kind of figured out we could use those guys for maybe the Sanity Project. The name wasn't out there yet. It's kind of like they have something. Triple H have something in mind, and they have some ideas about what they want to do. And they said to us it was kind of in the making since 2011.
Wow.
So fast forward, Eric Young came to NXT and he debuted in the match against Samoa Joe. So they were interested in Eric signing him. And then they figured out, hey, let's put him and those two weird-looking dudes together, and we can form the group from Smoking Aces, because they look kind of odd, right? They are not the best looking guys, but they kind of like look like wrestlers. So in that case, it's like those three together could fit in. So the idea was made up. They told us we want to have this, you three together. It's just, spitball ideas and let's figure out. And it's always like that. They give you kind of like the blueprint of what they want to have. That's the movie. Watch the movie. This is the idea about this. They want to have like total psychopath, and you it'd be kind of like, against everybody because you're not really friends, but you have the same mind, the same idea. And EY is the only guy who can speak to you guys because he has also the same mindset, but he's more like the person in the front. So after a while, we put in kind of the ideas for the characters for the outfits. And we got the idea for the music. And then on the day where we debuted, they put Nikki with us together.
Mm.
And the funny part on that was on the same television. So Nikki, before that, Nikki was always traveling with Sawyer and myself because I knew Damo, Nikki's real husband, and we also we knew each other from Germany. So I knew that her fiance Nikki would come over NXT because she signed, and you knew in the States your brother's been there a couple of times, but now you live there. So as a European, it's a different environment because first Florida, the heat, right? And then America culture is different than European culture, different than German culture, and I know different than Scottish or English culture as well. So we kind of clicked together, became friends, and I kind of knew oh, I tell her what I have been through, with the culture shock and et cetera, et cetera. So I could help her out because I was friends with Damo already. So then we clicked and we toured together. We did all the coconut shows together. So she already was a part of us. But then on TV, she came to us and said, "Yeah, I'm a part right now. I'm the fourth member of the crew." And we just all sit together and be like, "Yeah, of course, that would be awesome." And just, "Let's go, Nikki. Yeah, you do it. You can bite everybody and whatever." It's like, "No, guys, seriously, I'm the fourth member." They told me right now. Serious? Awesome. Yeah. And we'd just all be happy. And we knew, okay, Triple H's idea, so his hand above us. So of course it will be successful. The only thing what could fuck up is us, and we just be totally on board, and we want to go, especially me. After 1 year, just performance center training and just being around there, and could not work for months because I'm not booked for even for the Florida shows. So it was a little bit frustrating, but for me it was okay, right time, right now, because after 1 year, I could fully adapt to the wrestling style of WWE, how to work on time, how to work on the fly, how to communicate with the wrestlers, with the referee, with the production, with the agents, etc., etc. Working television, where's the hard cam, all that. Because if you just work indies, you have no idea. And if you just work indies, and even if you're good, as soon as you're on the television product, you have to learn new. You have to start from scratch. But now you have to know which way you turn and which way you do a cover or whatever, because camera want to see your face because that's what you sell. And yeah, first match debut was good. Second match, then we had a little bump on the road because they told us, don't wrestle. You're a psychopath. If you in the alley, or if you're in the bar, or you want to kill somebody, you don't lock up, you don't do wrist locks, you don't do headlocks, whatever. You maybe try to gouge the eye out, and maybe try to bite his arm, and maybe punch his teeth out, but do not try to wrestle. And at one point, I was too much into wrestling because that's what I love. I'm a passionate pro wrestler. And then I remember they've been very, very clear and very serious to us. Like, if you don't know how to pull the gig off, you can replace it very quick. So because they want to go with that act, and the train was rolling. And then we had our debut in Toronto, Canada. I'll never forget that moment where we were on the takeover tapings, which would air the next week after the takeover. And we interrupt the match. And when we came out, the entire arena was unglued. Everyone stood up, loud cheer. They hear the music, and the music is also, a beauty, because the helicopter, and you hear bass and everything, and still getting goosebumps talking about it. So that was our first big stage debut, and it went well, but not for Sawyer Fulton. I remember we did our tag team finish, and he ripped off his pec muscle, and he had to go in surgery. But then at the same time, Damo was signed, and they replaced him right away with Damo because he was also a fit. I would not say he was a better fit, but he was a more convenient fit because Sawyer, again, great guy and a hell of a talent. And right now, he also finds his own shtick with independent wrestling, and he could make kind of the towns and learned. It was also with Impact, so he made a huge involvement with that. But at that time, he was so much experience, and it was a little bit questionable because they've been on his ass because of his performance. And I always try to iron it out as best as possible, but he also was trying just to perform as best as possible, that I could perform also on my level, just to give them 100%. A lot of times it was kind of you've been on his ass, right? Just been, no, don't do this, go that way. You're a big motherfucker. Don't sell too much for little guys, because that's what the WWE is all about, protecting your brand and make the story work. If he was almost 2 meters tall, and there was a guy like TJP, and he knocked his ass, and he sold like I don't know, like Samoa
Dolph
Joe was
Ziggler.
hitting him. Yeah, and for example, but like again, he's tall and he's big, and if you don't understand how to work that properly, you see Undertaker, for example, he knows how to protect his brand and to sell his hide against smaller guys, and they kind of make him earn the bump, or he makes them earn the bump. That makes more sense. But he got injured, they replaced him with Damo, and I teamed with Damo. So also a guy I knew from Germany already, and we had also a great chat. He's a lovely fellow, as you know.
He is.
We clicked right away together. So okay, we are the tag team. Ewa is the singers guys, and Nikki's the maniac who eventually is not threatening somebody. She's the one who pulls the trigger. So she's the most dangerous one, which was great because she's a bundle of joy, but she's also for real a chaotic maniac a lot of times in a really lovely and funny way. But then the team was there, and the train was going and it was rolling, and because of, and it's always, that's what's also is a very important thing. You can be the best worker, but as long as they don't put the machine behind you, you really have to go over on yourself in an organic way. We have seen a lot of things where the people get behind somebody and they have no other choice. But we had the luxury of Triple H likes his idea and he likes us because we could put it on the canvas. And that's why we kind of like got a little bit more a special treatment. So we got more opportunities. We used them. We knocked it out the park. We had like with the War Games match, we being kind of like the different seasoning in the War Games match, not just the wrestling. We bring in the weapons, so we bring in the chaos. And he gave us a lot of great ideas. And even like the head writer from NXT in that time, Joe Castro, he was also very envisioning the entire thing. So he had also great ideas for us, like we do not cut the promo behind the NXT network or WWE network NXT wall. We went up for Full Sail on the roof and just be there, like, I don't know, like 3 meters high, and just, getting up the stairs and everything was slippy. Or we go into the basement and it looks like crappy. Oh, that's the perfect place for the promo. And like, and they've been hard with us, but in a good way, to telling us, don't do the promo like everybody else, you be unique. So speak like in parts or just even my character. So they helped us with evolving the whole act with ourself, like just with our own ideas, with our self proclaimed personality in that character. And coaching staff, for example, I can not dearly thank enough a guy like Scotty Jihadi, who is kind of the guy to speak to about characters, because he's not a wrestler's wrestler, he's a character guy. He make a silly breakdance move like world famous.
Yeah.
And he made so many money with that, and still, like, to this day, he is one of the coolest thing. And I'm honored I had the chance to do the worm with him in the ring at Wrestling Carnival. So, but he's the guy who helped me. He's the guy who helped me so much with the Alexander character, just to find myself and find my inner psychopath, which I can proclaim for. And you're always looking for things you like, which go in that direction. And he was pointing out, when I do promos, for example, how to behave in a weird way that people kind of listen what I have to say, but still like being distracted about like weird movements or weird like kind of like, if he always said like the thing, if you put somebody behind a shadow wall, they have to know who it is. So if you see somebody who kind of do this and spits water, it's Triple H, right? Or if you kind of see like a guy like do this, HBK, yada yada yada. So what could you do that people will recognize you just from your shadow? Or what could you do when you speak? How could you speak in a different way, especially with your German accent, stuff like this? So he helped me a lot with that, and it was a success story because tag team titles in Brooklyn was very special to me. We did the first War Games under WWE umbrella, was very, very special to me. It was my first main event on the takeover show, and just working together with all the dudes there was awesome, great experience, and that was a true success story. And I would even say, before we got the call up, I would love just to be some 1 or 2 years longer in NXT. And not even, it sucked because they split us off from Nikki Cross, because they needed some girls with credibility with the name still there, because a lot of girls got called up to SmackDown and Raw, but just in general, just to not split up the group and just stay there because it worked and never change a winning team. And also, we could have done a longer program with Undisputed Era, maybe one or two or three takeover matches, like stipulations, etc., etc. But yeah, what worked well and worked as a charm in NXT did not work as much we hoped on SmackDown.
No, I was going to say it was quite a big blow when you got called up and there was no Nikki. It did feel like I was talking to Damo. Damo's been on the show previously, and he was like,
Yeah.
it did kind of feel like there was a family member missing of the group.
It was a huge breakup, and I remember we were in Full Sail and we did our last match, whatever, and I think EY put Alice Black over. We all got black masks and just kind of like the goodbye for us.
Yeah.
And then we got told like, hey guys, please come back, go to Gorilla. And then we went to Gorilla. I think it was before the taping, so we knew before. And we got told like, hey, Triple H wants to see you guys. So Triple H and Shawn Michaels just sitting there. We saw cameras in the corner. We saw something special. So, oh, you guys get promoted. You guys go to SmackDown. But we went here like without Nikki. So it's kind of, where's Nikki? So yeah, that's the thing. Without Nikki Cross. And it was not saying that Vince didn't like her or whatever. That was kind of the rumor, but I never hear it for sure. But it says no, and Nikki has to be here because we need her for the women's division. So you three guys, you just go. And then maybe they put you together, maybe not. They mentioned the Enzo Amore and Big Cass situation with Carmella because Enzo Amore got the call up and she stood at NXT. And then, yeah, and it's funny that we got called up and Nikki went later because she had more time in NXT to develop more her character. And then she got called up and being the most successful of the whole group. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. I think it would benefit us all for being there at least 1 year longer there, just evolve all the different characters. But it is what it is. And it's like two different pair of shoes, even if it's the same company. And yeah, like, again, it's like if you would lose a family member, and it was so I was happy. Because for me it was the success story of being 3 years in the Performance Center, be the first German guy on the main roster, and just have the chance just to fulfill a long life dream, and maybe have the potential to be on a pay-per-view and be in a Rumble, or just go to WrestleMania, whatever. But then also, it was that kind of like it sucks because I was not that happy because I would be more happier if they would say you all four go up and we could find something. And it's hard from creative point. I understand that. That's also a thing which I will mention later, probably when we come to Imperium. It's hard if you have like a lot of guys there. It's hard to find a good creative to not bury everybody, right? And if you're there and you're a group of four and one person of that is the female, you have like a hard creative point on that because you're not allowed to hit the girl, but you have to plan with her, and you cannot plan without her because the question is, why is not she there? And if she's a psycho, why is she doing this and that? So a lot of times it feels like, okay, you have to be very creative, and a lot of times, and I think that's wrestling different, you book yourself into a corner. It's hard to get out of that in a logic way. I mean, you could say, yeah, it is what it is, and it's wrestling, but WWE was never like, it's wrestling, and that's the fun part of that. Just be really creative and just make you think about that. That was also a big thing from Shawn Michaels. Like, you can change everything, you just have to think hard and just be creative. Everything is possible, right? But in that case, it was not possible. It was probably like the little shortcut, but it sucked 100%, and it killed the joy of just getting the call up.
Yeah, I can imagine. Before we move on to Imperium, we've got a couple of questions from my team, actually, the people that couldn't be on the show today. So Andy, one of our hosts, he asked, what is the best wrestling music, best entrance music in wrestling today?
That's hard though, because I do not watch that much wrestling right now.
Or when
I know all the musics, but so right now, because it's a very catchy song, I would say Cody Rhodes, because it's so babyface song, and the lyrics, and people can sing along in the whoa with, and I always liked the song, even when he was in AEW. So it's perfect for him. It fits 100%. So that's always the song when I hear it. It's kind of like it's that mid 2000 vibes, when you have
Yeah.
like some catchy, cool song, like I don't know, for example, the Random one, I Have Voices in My Head, and same as
Yeah.
to Cody Rhodes, right? So I would say that song. But when I think back, Sanity, of course,
Yes.
Undisputed Era, because
Yep.
it always reminded me of Rage Against the Machine. I love Rage Against the Machine. If you don't know Rage Against the Machine, listen to the lyrics, and it's from beginning of the 90s, and the lyrics fit to this time right now perfectly. So
Yep.
Rage Against the Machine is awesome. And I remember NXT, the Black and Gold era,
Mm-hmm.
Shinsuke Nakamura, Finn
Yes.
Balor, Bobby Roode, like Johnny Gargano, Rebel Heart,
Yep.
right? So even that fits perfectly to Johnny Gargano. So you had all like this crazy music. Aleister Black, Tommy End
Oh,
when he
yeah.
was
Yeah.
Aleister Black, like this
Yeah.
music, amazing because I love this type of music. So many entrance music, and I know like a lot of people get maybe nostalgia pop right now because it was the CFO music, which
Mhm.
was great, and the music afterwards it was not that much good anymore. But yeah, I think let me let's go way back, Steve Austin. So
Sleep on the glass when the glass. Yeah, that was,
yeah,
that was well. What my one generally, my one for the presentation side was the Undertaker's. Not necessarily the
oh
music,
yeah,
but the whole sort of lights go down, the smoke, and he's. I can't imagine what it's like when you're standing in the ring and he's coming down in the cloak and the fire. Is the whole
again
presentation.
getting goosebumps again
Yeah.
right now because do you have seen that entrance live?
Yes, I've seen it live. I've seen it many a times. Yeah, live. Yeah.
Okay, so I have seen it many times as well, but I have seen it three times, I guess, on WrestleMania.
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
whole setup, and it's, again, goosebumps. It's like that's when you feel wrestling. It's
Yeah.
an amazing feeling. But now, just imagine you be in the audience, right? And you sit maybe at the nosebleeds or whatever, and like all the music, you see all like the whole drama, the entrance, the lights, the
Mm.
flames, or whatever. But it's a different kind of beast when you stand in the middle of the ring and you would see watching him,
Yeah.
because a lot of times when you let's say you get a monster pop, and I would like describe a monster pop would be you come into the arena and people are so loud and so crazy and cheering and screaming that you see the arena shaking. So it's kind of like for the viewers, you kind of like see that,
That.
right?
Yeah.
You see it shaking. And it's not because the arena is actually shaking, it's because of all like the vibration, right?
Yeah.
From the sounds and everything. So when you stand in the ring and you get the monster pop and the Undertaker comes out, that's the emotion you would have times 100%, because it's insane, and especially like a guy like the Undertaker, he's all over the place, and people sign debut, and now they tell his son, the guy who's retiring right now, that was my childhood hero. So
Yeah.
that long he's in the business, and then this entrance, and all with that time, and it could take half an hour, is still awesome.
It was. I think one of the ones I remember was WrestleMania 25 because Sean come down from heaven and the Undertaker rose from hell. That was one of my first ones I saw live, which was
What an
amazing.
analogy, huh?
Yeah, that was an amazing one. The other one for quite interesting for Mega Pops, I was in Miami after I went to see WrestleMania. The next night, Brock Lesnar come back. I have
Ooh,
I mean, I've heard a lot of pops. I've seen a lot of returns in my time, but there for that moment for me was on. I
yeah,
mean, talking about shaking. I think it actually. I felt that you could just feel it when
yeah,
he was coming out from that moment that because everyone was expecting the Rock, I think, and then it just come out
yeah.
it was Rock, and everyone went absolutely crazy.
Even after his UFC run, where's
Yeah.
times 10 the megastar before he left, right?
Yep, exactly that. And we got a quick one from Dave, one of our other guys that runs the show. Dave, he's our AEW guy. But he asked if there's any arena that you haven't worked in at the minute that you'd like to in the States, or your favorite one.
Tons of arena,
Yeah.
tons of arena. Madison Square Garden would be the first one
Mm.
because as in WWF kid, because
Mhm.
they did so many shows there and so
Yeah.
many great. Like I remember, I'm a fan since '93 when I was 6 years old,
Yeah.
and then I had a break in mid of the '90s because of school, and it was broadcasted too late to watch it, and then I came back Rumble 2000. I was in Madison Square Garden. That was my time when I picked up again on wrestling, and then I researched all the years after, and then went into the Attitude Era and became a wrestler myself. Like started training in 2000 in August, to be more precisely. But Madison Square Garden is one of the arenas I would love to perform. Also in Boston, there's a famous arena. I was twice in Korakuen Hall, but I would love to be in Korakuen Hall again. Sumo Hall, and of course Tokyo Dome is one of the arenas. And let me think. There was another one which was. I think those are specifically. There was another one. I'm embarrassed right now just to not remember. Yeah, of course we have Wembley.
Yes, Wembley. Yes, where are you
Wembley.
going?
So, but Wembley Arena, but also Wembley Stadium. But Wembley Arena, I was there already with WWE on a house show, but it was a house show. It was not kind of a pay-per-view, but
Yeah.
like the stadiums and the arenas. But I Wembley Stadium because it was very interesting because of Bret Hart against British Bulldog, because that match was so fun to watch and like also piece of art. But then the atmosphere in there, especially the UK crowd, is also so thankful and so giving, like with cheers and boos and like interaction and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I was at that Wembley for British Bulldog Bret Hart. I had hair back then, amazingly enough, but I also had the Bulldog's wig. Yeah, here we go.
Me too.
Me too. So let's move on quickly now to Imperium. So you kind of touched on it. Obviously, Sanity Run didn't, when it got called up, it just didn't work out. Things had happened, and you got moved to NXT UK.
Yeah.
Then you join this totally different group in terms of, the presentation, these are ring generals, as Ludwig would say.
Yeah.
These guys are like the mat is sacred. They are what I would call literally, this is like a wrestling group. You have like the presentation side, but these guys are just wrestling. You got Walter or Gunter, you got Ludwig Kaiser now that he's called a Giovanni Vinci now, and you had yourself. But you did mention it's difficult when you've got 4 men in a group to get it right.
Yes. I mentioned it because I always got the question, hey, Imperium, would you love to join them again? Because they're doing so great right now. I said, no, because they're doing so great, because right now it's easier just to put them on television. Because now you just have to think for 3 heads, not for 4 heads.
Yeah.
And we had to struggle at NXT UK as well, just to get that topic out of the way. I remember it was always hard for creative, and especially for us, because we are very protective about the character, because the vision they had, we just been the kind of like intruders in NXT UK because we are not British talents. So we're European talents, and we also pushed very hard, always like reframe that to NXT Europe, because it's not only British guys, also Irish guys,
like Australians as well, isn't it?
So it's kind of like silly just to call it just NXT UK. But matter of fact, we always try to protect ourselves. So, for example, we had to find out a way. If we had a feud against Mustache Mountain, and after Pete left NXT UK, went to NXT US, it was always Trent and of course Tyler.
Yeah.
Against 4 guys.
Yeah.
And it's not 4 guys where Walter is the big guy and you have 3 enhancement guys. You had an established, well experienced and well skilled tag team, and you had me being the hatchet man of the group, being the man for the dirty work, but also just being a threat to everybody else. So 2 guys who've been awesome talents and also had a lot of credibility against 4. How you do that without burying 3 of the guys, right? So then we had to figure out what could we do, that they'd been smarter as the babyface than us, so they could like dance a limbo to not get caught by us, because as soon as they get caught by us, they get beaten down. And if you look that up on the network, I think we did a good work with protecting ourselves, but even not burying the baby faces. So it was an amazing match between Tyler and Walter at TakeOver Cardiff. But the story before that was that, we built it up to the way where both camps had credibility enough that the outcome was not spoiled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we would beat them down all the time, it would be a no-brainer that Walter would win. But because of we all from the team, British Mustache Mountain and Imperium, plus the writers also, Joe Castro, the guy who also was responsible for Sanity, everything. We all put a lot of thoughts in that and created something cool. And Shawn Michaels was on top as well. So it was a success story, Imperium in NXT UK for sure, before the pandemic, of course.
Of course.
So it all came really good together because I remember there was the draft in Montreal after WrestleMania 35,
Yep.
which was in New York, New Jersey, and Sanity was dead in the water, and we knew that because we're not even been in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and that was pretty frustrating for us. Um, then we tried to get on the show and just be Shane's and henchman talents like we did before on the TVs, and they said no, not interested. So we kind of we either get released or we just stay in catering, just get still paid. Fuck it. Excuse me. And then I got the message about you booked for NXT UK, and then texted the other guys, hey, we're going to NXT UK, right? No. How? So I got the message, I got the bookings. We don't. What's going on? Oh, let's talk with Triple H. And he mentioned then, um, I do not want to you guys get wasted in catering, not wasted in a drinking way, but waste your talents just being in catering and do nothing and just doing dark matches. Because what nobody saw, we did a lot of SmackDown working parts in the dark matches while we kind of wrestled with the new up and coming tag teams. But we had no television time really, so it was kind of like it was okay. You could open up the SmackDown shows, but nobody sees you on television, so nobody recognizes you in the house shows.
Yeah.
That's how it works in America. But in that time, it was kind of like, I do not want to waste your talent or you guys' talent and sit in catering and be frustrated in the end, get released for nothing. So that's why I want to split you up. EY goes to Raw because he wanted to stay on the main roster. Demo goes to NXT US and will start seeing a few there. And I put you together with your old friends from Ringkampf, if that's familiar, because Walter, so Gunther, Marcel, Ludwig Kaiser, and we knew each other from Germany, and we'd been a team already, like more a backstage team, like a clique. And we invented kind of like, because we had the same drive for wrestling, we were driven by the same ideology of how should be professional wrestling be. Kind of, you should take it serious, should honor the legacy, you should honor the history of it, and you should educate yourself about certain things, and you should have a standard in wrestling. So everything what Imperium talks is legit. That's a legit thing. Just turn up to 11, so you could make a heel stable out of it, but it would work as a babyface as well. But we had that thing, and then we created the brand Ringkampf. I left to Germany, went to America, and they created that act on the stage for WXW. And then it got kind of like signed up. Marcel got signed to NXT US. He teamed up with Fabian there, and Fabian was the perfect guy just to join that because he got trained by Alex Wright and Steve Wright, and they also, it's like the history of it, of professional wrestling, Ringkampf, and he was the perfect fit for that. So then you had Walter, Fabian, and Marcel, and on the first taping I was not attending, I was there, it was the first taping in Glasgow for NXT UK, and they reformed, or they kind of like combined Fabian, Marcel, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci with Walter, Gunter. And then the day after, so the tapings after, I joined them. So you had like four guys with the same passion, same driving, but still four different personalities. And it worked as a charm as well. So it was my second success story in WWE. Most importantly, it was a little bit my savior for my career, because I have to admit I was very depressed, not mentally depressed or anything. I was still in a healthy place mentally, but I was in the place of they do not want to work with us, even if we work as hard as possible, pitch ideas, do this, do that. We had a writer who was not bold enough just to speak with Vince, even if he talked to us, hey, I had a good talk with him, yada yada yada. He was never pitching ideas, but probably was pitching ideas because somebody else got our ideas. So maybe a coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidence. So it was kind of like, fuck it, we get paid. We just being kind of like, we do everything what you can do. We try to control everything what you control. Of course, you could do more, but in that case, you always get a low blow and no and whatever, and everybody tells you everything is fine, but nothing is fine. So I was depressed. I cannot speak for the other guys, but I think it was the same. And we've been delighted that they split this off and we all had the chance to do something new. And I was delighted just to get together with my old friends and just be the wrestler again and not the psychopath. I have to watch out that I don't do too much wrestling. So now I could go back to my roots, technical, awesome wrestling, just be crisp again, just be finesse again, just to find bits and pieces, get European wrestling style, German wrestling style over, German wrestling style over, a little bit catch wrestling over, like the stuff what I personally like, which I would love to show the people and hopefully they have fun with it. So I was very excited with that, and that saved my wrestling career and especially, lighten up my mood about everything. So it was less grizzled, yada yada yada. So and it was great just to be in NXT UK as well because it was pretty new. So I'm kind of believe I put a lot of work in there just to work with some other guys, and we pushed up that brand again. And yeah, before the pandemic, everything went well, and they had a lot of big plans. And yeah.
And then unfortunately, as we know, the pandemic hit, that went past, and as part of the pandemic, they released a lot of talent. Unfortunately, you're one of those. So let's start rounding this up now. What are you doing now? Where can the fans see you? What have you got coming up?
So right now, I'm still a little bit sitting on the shelf and waiting till I'm healed 100% again because late April, yeah, end of April, April 28th, I did a show for my favorite company in UK, Progress Wrestling, and I landed unfortunately a little bit raw on my right shoulder, and I broke my collarbone, and I had to get back put together in place and get kind of like some screws in there, a little bit metal parts. So I'm probably out until mid-July, beginning of August, just to heal it up. But right now everything is good. Get my range of motion back 100% and doing upper body workouts again. So everything fine, and I'm very grateful and happy that my recovery process is basically ahead of time. But yeah, it's easy. I'm everywhere where people where I'm announced, where people want to book me and just perform. And my home promotion, my major promotion in Germany is of course WXW and GWF, the biggest two promotion in Germany. And yeah, I have fun with wrestling and I have fun just being in the indies. Of course, my main goal is just to get a contract again in a big promotion because you want to have that steady income and you want to have that million eyes behind that camera from the viewers at home. But I have fun at the moment, and I always learned how to kind of enjoy the moment and just be more present and not being too much in the future and definitely not be in the past. So yeah, it's awesome. So after I came back from WWE, I made a lot of towns and made a lot of new countries. I never wrestled before so much in England. I went to Poland. I went to France again. I had like a wrestling past in France a lot. I learned a lot there. I wrestled in Belgium, Italy for the first time, Austria first time, Qatar, Dubai,
Wicked.
etc., etc. So, and of course all over Germany. But the main thing is I work with so many amazing talents, and I finally can kind of like pull out all the tricks, all the cards I learned in WWE, all the stuff which I got taught by a guy like Robbie Brookside, by Scotty Todd, Norman Smiley, Terry Taylor, Shawn Michaels, Fit Finlay, Ring Regal, etc., etc., etc. The list is long, but the list is great, and all like that stuff, like how to listen to the crowd, how to progress in story, how to build up a match and anticipation for a finish, whatever. And I really have fun with that. And I'm so grateful that people dig that and accept that. And especially if I mention again progress, because progress is very dear to my heart. Um, I remember Walter gave me the connection to Progress because he recommended me there. He's since I broke in WXW, he was always constantly there, and he's a very giving man, and he likes to help the people who have the passion for it. So of course, if you're smug and if you do not have the passion, do not want to work hard, you could care less. But if he feels like, oh, you're a good guy and you want to do that 100% and you're really behind that, and that's why we clicked a lot because we have the same drive and the same passion for that. he will help you. So he helped me a lot, not only in WXW, but also after WWE. And again, I'm very grateful that he did that. And I built up a good community at Progress. Not only that I have the chance to team again with Big Damo, but also I have the chance like to show myself in front of the great crowd of London or like Britain. And I love to be there. I love the environment. I love the wrestling there. And I think, especially with the wrestling style there, I can go in the right different direction and still, make the most out of it. And yeah, and also because I'm right now, out of action and everything. When August comes, I'm again back on the roads for almost every weekend. And also, I have opened up my own wrestling school right now in my hometown. So the time I could not be on tour, that's the time I can invest right now to keep, to start that wrestling school, just to get people in, get new signups, train them from the start, and just try to give them a great fundament of professional wrestling that they can build up this house they want to build and want to live in, which is their wrestling career. So a lot of things to do. Like that's like two projects I have right now. I have still with one of my best friends a podcast, and he's a guy. He's a musician, so he made my entrance music. We did a video clip right there, and there's some TV stuff coming, so filming action as well, which is right now still in the baby shoes in the beginning, but there's probably a high potential of just me being a part of a TV series which got broadcasted here on national television. So future looks bright, but again, I'm right now at the present, and I thanks to God, I have a wonderful life, I have a wonderful career so far, and sky's the limit for that. And I have a wonderful family life, a lovely wife, which I love, 100%, and I have two kids, which I love, and they're both healthy. So again, thanks to God, like life is great, and I cannot complain with any bits and pieces, and I can't wait to finally go back on the road and just to kick some ass again in the ring.
That is a wonderful way to wrap up this interview, Axel. What an entertaining hour or so. For me personally, fascinating hearing it. We wish you well in your recovery. We can't wait to get you back on the road. We hope your school does fantastically well and you can bring on that next generation. Guys, this has been, for me, one of the best interviews I've been privileged to do. Axel,
thank you very much.
We thank you so much for your time, guys. This has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I've been your host, Adam Cousins, with our good buddy there, Axel, and we'll see you very soon. Well, we've got loads dropping this week, so just keep an eye out on our socials, and we'll be there. Until then, buckle down, stay safe, good night.